The rain had started early that morning, falling in soft patterns against cracked city pavement. It was the kind of rain that washed color from the world, leaving everything looking gray and tired. Keanu stood beneath the small awning of his building, his jacket pulled tight, and watched as people rushed past with umbrellas or jackets over their heads, barely noticing one another. His shoes were already soaked. A faint hunger gnawed at his stomach, but it was not as sharp as the feeling of dread that had grown in him over the past weeks. He told himself, as he did every morning, that today would be different. Today would be the day someone finally gave him a chance. But even as he whispered the words, they felt thin, almost imaginary, like a hope that didn't belong in the real world. His fingers traced the edge of the worn job flyer in his pocket. The car dealership had advertised an open position for someone to clean and wash cars, sweep the floor, and take out trash. Nothing glamorous, but steady work, something Keanu had not had in many months. Ever since his mother passed away, life had changed quickly. He used to have a small job and a better place to live, but now it was just this tiny room, an empty fridge, and his quiet struggle to survive. His friends had slowly stopped calling. Some had moved, some just drifted away. He was left with memories, and the voice of his mother always telling him, "When the world gets rough, remember, the sun still rises every morning." The walk to the dealership took nearly an hour. Each step felt heavier than the last, but he kept moving, refusing to let himself turn back. As he walked, he noticed little things: an old couple sharing a bright blue umbrella, a child splashing in a puddle, the smell of fresh bread drifting from a bakery. The world moved on, beautiful and cruel, and Keanu was just another invisible piece of it. When he reached the dealership, he wiped his hands on his jeans, tried to smooth his hair, and stepped through the glass doors. Inside, it was another world: warm lights, the polished shine of expensive cars, and people speaking in quick, practiced voices. Salesmen wore crisp shirts and perfect smiles. Customers drifted from car to car, eyes shining with dreams of power and speed. Keanu's heart pounded. He felt out of place, but forced himself forward, walking past men in suits and women in heels, each of them glancing at him and quickly looking away. He stood near the front desk, waiting for someone to notice him. It took a long time. Finally, a woman behind the desk looked up. She seemed young but tired, her eyes moving quickly from his face to his hands, to the hole in his sleeve. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice quiet and polite, as if she did not expect him to be trouble but was prepared if he was. "I saw your ad," Keanu said softly. "I'm here to apply for the cleaning job." She gave him a form to fill out. He sat on a little geo bench near the window and filled it out carefully, his handwriting slow and neat. The words felt heavy: address, phone number, work history. Each blank space reminded him how much he had lost, how much he wanted to start again. His hands trembled, but he finished the form and gave it back with a shy smile. He waited, trying to ignore the looks from people passing by. Finally, a large man in a dark suit came over. He was the manager. Everyone seemed to know it by the way they moved aside when he approached. The man glanced at the paper, then looked up and down at Keanu. His eyes were cold, his mouth set in a hard line. "This job isn't for people like you," the manager said, voice loud enough that others could hear. He did not care if it hurt. Keanu swallowed hard. "I just need a chance," he said, the words barely more than a whisper. "I'll work harder than anyone, please." The manager's lips twisted. In a flash, he stepped closer and shoved Keanu hard in the chest. The blow caught Keanu by surprise, pushing him backward. He lost his balance and stumbled, arms flailing. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down: the pain in his chest, the shock on the faces of the people watching, the cold fear rising up from his stomach. But nobody helped him. Someone laughed. The receptionist looked away. Keanu caught himself on a chair and stayed standing, his breath shaky. "Get out," the manager growled. "And don't come back." Keanu did not argue. He could not. His pride felt shattered, but he forced himself to keep moving, to keep his head high even as he turned and walked back out into the rain. His hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from shame. The world outside felt even grayer now, the sky darker than before. He wandered the street for a while, the pain in his chest mixing with anger and sadness. He could hear his mother's voice, soft but firm. "Never let anyone tell you your worth. Respect comes from within." The words comforted him, but the weight of the day pressed down hard. At the corner, as he waited for the light to change, he saw an old man trying to lift a heavy box into the back of a van. The man grunted, struggling. People hurried past, pretending not to see. Without thinking, Keanu stepped over and offered his help. "Let me get that for you," he said, reaching for the box. Together, they lifted it into the van. The old man wiped his forehead and smiled, missing a few teeth. "Thank you, young man. Not many people stop to help an old fool like me these days." Keanu smiled back, though it hurt. "No one's a fool for needing help, sir." The old man tried to offer him some coins, but Keanu shook his head. "Just glad to help," he said softly. "It's been a hard day. Maybe tomorrow will be better." The man nodded. "You're a good soul, son. Don't let the world change that." Keanu walked away, the words settling deep in his heart. He found a small bus stop and sat under its shelter. His clothes were soaked. His stomach rumbled. But he looked at his hands and remembered the old man's smile. He realized that even when everything else is taken, nobody can take away your kindness. A little while later, a mother and her young daughter hurried into the bus stop, escaping the rain. The girl clutched a stuffed bear, and her face was stained with tears. The mother's groceries fell from her bag, apples rolling onto the wet sidewalk. Keanu jumped up, gathering the apples and handing them back. The mother smiled, eyes full of gratitude. The little girl wiped her tears and shyly offered Keanu a piece of candy from her pocket. It was a tiny gift, but in that moment, it felt bigger than anything he had lost. As Keanu sat back down, a car from the dealership sped by, splashing water onto the sidewalk. Inside, the manager was laughing with a customer, his face full of pride and power. For a second, their eyes met. Keanu looked away, but this time it wasn't from shame. A strange, quiet strength was building inside him, a belief that true respect could never be measured by money, clothes, or titles. The bus finally arrived, its headlights glowing in the misty evening. Keanu climbed on, unsure where he was going, but determined not to give up. He would not let anger or sadness control him. He would find work, even if he had to start from nothing. He would treat everyone with the respect and kindness the world seemed to have forgotten. What he did next would not only shock the people who had judged him, but would change the lives of strangers in ways no one could imagine. The bus rumbled along empty streets, the windows foggy from the rain and the breath of tired passengers. Keanu sat near the back, his head pressed to the cool glass. Every bump in the road seemed to echo inside him. He closed his eyes and listened to the city's tired sounds, a distant siren, the rustle of a newspaper, the quiet sigh of a woman holding her sleeping child close. Everyone on that bus was carrying something, Keanu thought. Everyone had their silent stories, their private aches. His own ache was heavy tonight. The push from the manager still burned on his chest, not just from pain but from humiliation. The memory played over and over in his mind, mixing with the sound of laughter and the cold eyes of people who looked right through him. It would have been easy in that moment to hate the world. But as he sat there, Keanu felt something else rising inside him, a stubborn kind of hope, raw and trembling, that whispered maybe there was still good in people, maybe there was still a place for someone like him. The bus stopped in a quiet part of town. Keanu stood, shoulders hunched against the cold, and stepped onto the slick pavement. He wandered through dim streets lined with closed shops and empty benches. Every step echoed loneliness. But as he passed a bakery, he caught a warm glow spilling from the window. Inside, an old woman with silver hair and kind eyes was sweeping the floor. The smell of fresh bread drifting out onto the street. Keanu pressed his face to the glass for a moment, letting the warmth and light fill him. He remembered days long ago when his mother would buy a single loaf of bread and they would share it, laughing and talking until the stars came out. Those memories felt far away now, but they made his heart ache in a gentle way, a way that made him want to believe in better days. The old woman noticed him and smiled, waving him inside. Surprised, Keanu hesitated, but her eyes were soft, welcoming. "Come in, dear," she called through the door. "It's too cold to stand out there." Her voice was rough but kind, like gravel wrapped in velvet. Keanu stepped inside, wiping his feet on the mat. Warmth wrapped around him, carrying the scent of flour and sugar. The bakery was small and filled with golden light. Loaves of bread sat cooling on racks, and pastries winked from behind the counter. Keanu's stomach tightened with hunger. The woman handed him a small roll without asking his name. "Eat," she said simply, as if she knew everything without needing to ask. "You look like you need it." Keanu's eyes stung, but he took the bread and thanked her. He ate slowly, savoring every bite. The woman watched him, her hands busy tying up a bag of old rolls. After a moment, she asked, "Tough night?" Her tone made it clear she had seen many like him before. Keanu nodded. "Just trying to find work," he said, the words thick in his throat. She listened without judgment, only nodding from time to time. When he finished the bread, she slid the bag of old rolls across the counter. "These are still good," she said. "Take them. Sometimes the world gives us more than we ask for, but only if we look for it." He wanted to refuse, but the look in her eyes told him it was not charity, it was respect, the kind that comes from recognizing another's struggle. Before he left, she pointed to a notice on the wall. "My friend at the community center is looking for someone to help with odd jobs. Nothing fancy but honest work. Maybe you should go see him tomorrow." Keanu thanked her, warmth spreading through his tired body. He walked back out into the street, clutching the bag of bread, and for the first time in weeks, he did not feel entirely alone. That night, Keanu found a sheltered doorway to sleep in. He used his bag as a pillow and pulled his jacket close around him. He shared half the rolls with a stray cat that curled up beside him, purring softly in the darkness. Rain tapped on the roof above. Somewhere nearby, a couple argued, their voices sharp against the night, but the cat and Keanu both ignored it. For a little while, there was peace. The next morning, the sun broke through heavy clouds. It was not much, just a weak, watery light, but it was enough to paint hope on the walls of the city. Keanu got up early, shaking the sleep from his body, and walked to the community center the baker had mentioned. The center was in an old building, with peeling paint and windows covered in drawings from local children. Inside, it was noisy and warm, full of people moving in all directions. Some faces looked tired, some looked hopeful, but all of them seemed busy trying to make life a little better, for themselves and for others. Keanu found the man the baker had told him about. His name was Mr. Hall. He was short, with a thick mustache and gentle eyes. He asked Keanu a few questions about his skills, his family, what kind of work he wanted to do. Keanu answered honestly, telling him about the cleaning job, about his mother, about how he had nowhere left to go. Mr. Hale listened quietly, then nodded. "We don't have much," he said, "but we have work and we pay fair. Come back this afternoon, help set up chairs for the community dinner, sweep the floors, and we'll see how you do." Relief flooded Keanu's body. He thanked Mr. Hale and spent the next few hours exploring the center. He helped carry boxes, fix a broken chair, and sweep the hall. The work was hard and simple, but the people treated him with respect. Nobody looked down at him. Nobody shoved him or told him he was not good enough. By evening, the main hall filled with the smell of food stew bubbling in big pots, fresh bread, and trays of apples and cookies. Families came in, talking and laughing. Some were struggling, some were lonely, but for a few hours they all shared the same roof and the same meal. Keanu helped serve food, smiling at the children and chatting with old men who told stories about the city in the old days. As he handed a bowl of stew to a shy young boy, Keanu saw something out of the corner of his eye. A familiar figure stood. In the doorway, it was the manager from the car dealership, his expensive coat dripping with rain, a scowl on his face. He looked out of place, but nobody seemed to notice him. The manager walked up to Mr. Hawley, his voice low but tense. "I need help," he muttered. "My car broke down and my phone died." "I just need to use a phone," Mr. Hawley pointed to the office. "Go ahead, help yourself. Would you like some food?" The manager hesitated, looking uncomfortable, but finally nodded. He took a seat at the end of a long table, trying to look small. People gave him space, but did not ignore him. One woman placed a bowl of stew in front of him, and a little girl set a cookie by his hand. Keanu watched from a distance, surprised by the feeling that rose inside him. It was not anger or pride, but something softer, a sense that everyone has a moment of need, that kindness is a gift we give not because it is earned, but because it is right. When the meal ended, the manager stood up and walked over to Keanu, his eyes darting to the floor. I remember you," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry for what happened. It's been a hard week. I shouldn't have treated you that way." Keanu looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Everyone has a bad day," he said. "I hope yours gets better." The manager looked shocked, then nodded slowly, as if unsure how to accept forgiveness. He thanked Keanu and left, a little less sure of himself but somehow lighter. As the hall emptied and the night grew quiet, Keanu helped clean up, stacking chairs and sweeping floors. Mr. Hawley handed him an envelope, a little cash, enough for a few days of food, and a note that said, "You did good today. Come back tomorrow." For the first time in a long time, Keanu walked out into the city and felt seen. The world could be cruel, but it could also surprise you with moments of grace. He realized that respect is built not from what you have, but from how you treat others, even when nobody is watching. What happened next would send shockwaves through the city and show everyone just how powerful one small act of kindness could be. That night, after the community dinner, Keanu found himself unable to sleep. He lay in the quiet corner of the shelter where Mr. Hawley had let him stay, staring at the soft glow from the streetlights outside. He felt a strange mix of hope and uncertainty swirling in his chest. For the first time in so long, he was not alone, not invisible. But something about the encounter with the car dealership manager lingered in his mind. The manager's apology was unexpected, his voice trembling with regret, almost as if he was fighting his own private storm. Keanu thought about the people he had met that day. The old woman from the bakery who saw his need without judgment. Mr. Hawley who gave him work and treated him with respect. The mothers and children at the dinner who shared smiles and small moments of happiness. Even the manager, once so cruel, seemed changed by the simple kindness of a warm meal and forgiveness. It made Keanu wonder if everyone was carrying some secret burden. If every unkindness in the world was just a mask for pain nobody else could see. The morning came softly. The sky brushed with light clouds. Keanu woke before dawn, helping Mr. Hawley prepare the center for a new day. There was always more to do: sweeping, washing dishes, organizing the storeroom. Keanu moved with quiet focus, each task grounding him, each moment of effort building something inside him he had nearly forgotten. A sense of dignity. In the late morning, a young woman rushed into the center, her face pale and worried. She was holding a little boy's hand, his cheeks streaked with tears. She said her son had wandered away from her at the market, and she had searched for hours before someone told her he might be here. Mr. Holly reassured her, gently guiding her and her son to a quiet room to calm down. Keanu watched this small act of care, feeling the warmth of it spread through the center, but the real surprise came just after lunch, when Keanu noticed a line of people forming outside the community center. At first, he thought maybe there was another event, but as he stepped outside, he realized these people were not just guests, they were people looking for help. Some were hungry, some needed a safe place to rest, some had lost their jobs or their homes. Word had spread about the kindness inside these walls, and the center was suddenly filled with new faces, each carrying their own quiet hopes and fears. The staff was overwhelmed, but they did not turn anyone away. Instead, they opened every cupboard, brought out extra tables, shared what little food they had left. Keanu found himself moving from person to person, handing out bread, pouring tea, listening to stories. Every handshake, every gentle word, built a bridge between him and the strangers around him. The room felt alive with possibility, as if something bigger than any one person was unfolding. In the middle of this, a local news reporter arrived, camera in hand. Someone must have told them about the sudden crowd at the center. The reporter asked Mr. Holly what had brought so many people together. Mr. Holly pointed to Keanu. "Sometimes all it takes is one person's kindness to remind us how strong a community can be," he said. The reporter turned to Keanu, asking for his story. Keanu's hands shook as he spoke, his voice quiet but honest. He told them how he had been turned away and hurt at the car dealership, how he found a little warmth and respect from strangers, how he discovered that even in his worst moment, he could still help others. The reporter listened carefully, and the story soon spread across the city. People who watched the news that night saw Keanu's face, heard his simple words about hope and resilience. Some were moved to tears, others remembered their own moments of hardship and the people who helped them through. Donations began to come in for the community center: food, money, clothes, and offers to volunteer. In a single day, the small shelter became a symbol of something the city had nearly forgotten: the quiet power of respect and kindness. The car dealership manager saw the story, too. He watched it in his office late at night, the same office where he had once humiliated Keanu. For the first time, he saw himself not as a successful man, but as someone lost and angry, taking out his pain on others. His hands trembled as he picked up the phone and called Mr. Holly, asking if he could help at the center in some way. It was not pride that made him call, but a deep longing to heal something broken inside himself. Keanu was there when the manager arrived the next morning. He saw the manager's hesitation, the nervous look in his eyes. Keanu did not look away or shrink from him. Instead, he walked over and offered his hand. The manager took it, his grip weak at first, then firmer. They worked together side by side, washing dishes and stacking chairs. Slowly, the walls between them faded, replaced by a quiet respect built from shared effort and honest apology. That week, the community center became a place of hope for more than just the people who came for help. The staff and volunteers grew closer, sharing stories over late dinners, learning each other's names, laughing at little moments of joy. Keanu felt his own sense of worth returning, like a plant growing toward the sun after a long winter. He found new friends, people who believed in him, who saw his value even when he struggled to see it himself. One night, as the city settled into sleep, Keanu sat outside the center with Mr. Holly and the old woman from the bakery, sharing a simple meal. The stars glimmered above, the air was cool, and laughter drifted on the breeze. Keanu looked around and realized how far he had come from the empty, hopeless days before. He knew now that the greatest wealth was not in money or comfort. but in the hearts we touch and the respect we give to one another. What happened next would challenge Keanu's new sense of purpose and test the entire community in a way none of them could have expected. The air grew colder as the week passed. Clouds hung heavy over the city, and each morning the streets were slick with last night's rain. Inside the community center, the buzz of new faces and old friends made the rooms feel warm, almost like family. The center had become a shelter. In every sense, people came not just for food and a bed, but for kindness, for a moment of peace, for the gentle touch of hope. Laughter echoed in the halls as children played with donated toys, and soft voices murmured comfort to those who needed it most. Keanu felt his life changing in quiet ways. Every day, he woke before the sun, sharing tea and stories with Mr. Hale, while they set up tables or fixed what was broken. He found himself looking forward to the smallest moments. A thank you from a mother who got a warm meal for her children. A handshake from a stranger who found work because of the center's bulletin board. The soft purring of the cat that now lived in the kitchen and greeted him each night. He had begun to believe that even in a world so full of struggle, little acts of kindness could stack together like stones and build something strong, something that lasted. But not everyone in the city saw the center in the same light. One afternoon, just as the first drops of a new storm began to hit the roof, 2 city officials arrived. Their suits were spotless, their voices crisp, and their eyes full of calculation. They pulled Mr. Hale aside and spoke in low tones, glancing now and then at the crowded room. Keanu watched, a tightness building in his chest. He saw Mr. Hale's face fall, his smile fading, replaced by a look of deep worry. After the officials left, Mr. Hale called a meeting with the volunteers. His voice was gentle but full of strain. "The city has received complaints," he said. "Some neighbors say there are too many people gathering here. They worry about noise, about safety, about the center breaking rules. They want us to close until the city reviews our paperwork and inspections." The room went silent. People looked at one another in disbelief. Keanu felt the old ache of fear rise in him again, the fear that every good thing in life was fragile. That hope could be taken away as quickly as it came. The community center had become a home for so many, and now it was threatened by cold words and hidden motives. "We have 3 days," Mr. Hawley continued, "to show the city that this place matters. That we are safe, clean, respectful. We need to fix everything they pointed out. Fire exits, kitchen safety, noise outside at night. If we work together, maybe we can convince them to let us stay open." A heavy silence followed. But then the old woman from the bakery stood and said, "We have built this place with our hands and our hearts. If we fix what's broken and stand together, they cannot ignore us." The days that followed were filled with hard work and tense moments. Keanu, the manager, and every volunteer worked long hours. They scrubbed every corner, repaired doors, posted new safety signs, and organized classes to teach everyone about fire drills and keeping quiet at night. Neighbors were invited in to see for themselves that the center was not a threat, but a blessing, a place where kindness made the streets safer, not less so. But even as they worked, storms battered the city. The power went out one night, plunging the center into darkness. Some children cried, scared by the sudden silence and the howling wind outside. Keanu moved from room to room with a flashlight, telling stories and singing soft songs to calm them. He found himself in the kitchen, lighting candles, the cat curled up at his feet. In the flickering light, he saw the fear in the manager's eyes. The manager was not the proud, angry man Keanu had met before. He was simply human, struggling to do the right thing. In the morning, power was restored, but the center was shaken. The city's inspector arrived, walking slowly through every room with a clipboard. His face was unreadable as he checked the walls, the fire extinguishers, the locks. Keanu felt the hours stretch long and thin as he waited for a verdict, every second carrying the weight of so many lives depending on one decision. As they waited, people from the neighborhood began to gather outside. Some were there to complain, but most were there to help. Families who had been fed by the center brought food and blankets. A local musician played a soft song in the street. The old man who once called himself a fool now stood at the door, welcoming newcomers and telling them why the center mattered. When the inspector finally called Mr. Holly and Keanu to the office, everyone's breath caught. The inspector looked at them for a long time. Then he spoke in a low, steady voice. "There are still things to improve, but I see the work you have done. I see the good you do. I will recommend to the city that you stay open on one condition. You must keep working together, keep making this place safe for everyone." The relief in the room was like sunlight breaking through clouds. People hugged, some cried, some laughed out loud. Keanu felt tears on his own cheeks, and he did not hide them. The old woman from the bakery squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with pride. That night, as rain finally stopped and the stars came out, the center was filled with quiet. Music, soft conversation, and the peace that comes from surviving a storm together. Keanu walked outside and looked up at the sky. He understood then that strength was not just about standing alone, but about holding on to each other. No matter what the world tried to take away, what happened next would test their courage even more and would reveal the true meaning of home, family, and forgiveness. The news that the community center would stay open brought hope back to everyone's faces, but it also reminded them that nothing in life is certain. The days that followed were filled with a new sense of urgency and care. Volunteers checked every corner for repairs, and families who had once come only for help now stayed to give something back. There was music, laughter, and hard work. Even the air inside felt brighter, as if every shared smile or helping hand made the walls stronger. Keanu felt a deep shift within himself. He remembered the first day he came to the center, cold and lost, turned away and pushed aside. Now he was someone people depended on, someone who could listen and guide, someone who could fix a broken chair or calm a frightened child. The manager who once shoved Keanu from the car dealership became his partner in the work. They moved together from room to room, sharing stories and silent nods of respect. There were moments of awkwardness, moments when old shame or anger threatened to rise, but forgiveness had become the silent rule that bound everyone together. Evening, as the sky turned the color of faded gold, the manager sat beside Keanu in the quiet courtyard behind the center. Leaves drifted down around them, and in the distance, they could hear the children singing. For a while, neither man spoke. Then the manager cleared his throat and said, "My name is Ben. I never told you before. I was wrong about you, Keanu. I was wrong about a lot of people. Sometimes when you're scared of losing what you have, you push people away. I thought being strong meant never needing anyone. But I see now real strength is different." Keanu listened, letting the words settle. He did not offer easy comfort. Instead, he said, "I know what it's like to be afraid. I know what it's like to be alone. But here, nobody is alone." In that quiet, Ben's shoulders relaxed, and, for the first time, Keanu saw not the angry manager, but a man who had suffered his own storms and was learning to find shelter. As autumn deepened, the center hosted a harvest festival. It was a celebration of small victories and community spirit. Tables were set with homemade dishes, bread, stew, fruit pies, jars of jam. Music played, people danced, and laughter wove through the crowd like sunlight. Old wounds were set aside, even if only for a few hours. Children ran through the halls, their faces painted, their arms full of donated toys. Mothers and fathers who had come with nothing found themselves surrounded by new friends and shared stories. In the middle of the festival, an unexpected guest arrived, a woman in a clean but worn coat, carrying a small bag and looking anxious. Keanu recognized her as the mother of the boy who once ran away to the center. She approached the table where Keanu served soup and said quietly, "I have found work. We have a place to live now. I wanted to thank you for taking care of my son. I wanted to give something back." In her hands, she offered a jar of homemade honey, the last gift from her old home. Keanu smiled and placed the jar on the table, where everyone could see. "We all give what we can," he said. "Sometimes it's bread. Sometimes it's a hand to hold. Sometimes it's just listening. Everything matters here." Throughout the night, Keanu watched as new people were welcomed, as old friends reunited, as the small center became a tapestry of different stories, woven together by need and kindness. There were moments of sadness, a child missing a lost parent, an old man staring out at the street with tears in his eyes, but each time, someone reached out, offering a word, a touch, a reminder that pain shared is lighter. Later that evening, Mr. Hawley called everyone together and thanked them for standing strong during the hardest weeks. "When the city threatened us," he said, "we didn't run. We didn't fight with anger. We opened our doors wider. We listened harder. We worked together. This is what makes a place home, not bricks, not rules, but respect, forgiveness, and the courage to keep loving even when the world is uncertain." As the festival wound down, Keanu sat alone for a moment under the quiet sky, listening to the last notes of a song drift into the night. He thought about his mother, about the hardships that brought him here, about the wounds that still lingered but no longer controlled him. He realized that forgiveness was not a single moment but a practice, a choice made every day to let go of the past and believe in better things. As he sat in that peace, a stranger arrived, a man who looked lost, his clothes torn, his eyes full of worry. Without thinking, Keanu stood and reached out a hand. "Come inside," he said. "There's food, there's warmth, and you're not alone." The man hesitated, then followed, his face softening with relief. What happened next would bring the story of the center and everyone inside to a moment of truth, where all the love, forgiveness, and courage they had found would be tested by one final, unexpected challenge. The weeks after the festival felt peaceful, like the calm after a long storm. The community center grew stronger. More people volunteered. The walls echoed with laughter and music. Families who once came in fear now walked in with smiles. Keanu felt at home, no longer haunted by memories of cold nights or hungry mornings. The center had become more than a shelter. It was proof that strangers could become family when they shared hope. Yet, beneath the happiness, a new worry spread through the city. Rumors started quietly, at first voices saying the center was too crowded, that it drew trouble, that people from other neighborhoods came only for handouts. Some neighbors worried about safety, others about change. Keanu noticed the shift in the way shopkeepers looked at him when he bought bread, or how the police drove by slower, watching the doors. A feeling of unease spread, so different from the warmth inside the center. One evening, while Keanu swept the hallway, Mr. Hawley called everyone to a meeting. His face was pale, his eyes troubled. "We've received word," he said softly. "The city council will vote tomorrow whether to shut us down for good." His voice trembled. "This time, it's not just about paperwork. Some powerful people want this place gone. They say it doesn't belong here." A heavy silence settled on the room. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers frowned with worry, and volunteers sat with bowed heads. Keanu felt anger rise inside, but he looked around and saw fear on every face. The center was their last hope, their only home. To lose it would mean more than losing walls and meals. It would mean losing faith. After the meeting, Keanu walked into the quiet evening, the sky thick with low clouds. Ben, the former manager, joined him. Together, they sat on the steps, watching the streetlights flicker. "I know what it's like to lose everything," Ben said quietly. but I've never had something like this to fight for before." His words settled deep in Keanu's heart. That night, nobody slept. Volunteers met in the kitchen, making signs and planning what to say. Some wrote letters, others practiced speeches. A few just held hands, sharing silent comfort. Keanu did not rest. He walked from room to room, checking on the children, offering soft words to mothers, promising they would not be alone no matter what happened. The next morning, the sun rose weak behind a curtain of gray. People gathered outside City Hall, clutching signs and hope. Word had spread, reporters came, cameras flashed, and soon a crowd filled the street. Some city officials arrived, faces cold and guarded. But others looked uncertain, surprised by the number of people standing together. Keanu stood at the front, beside Ben, Mr. Hulle, the old woman from the bakery, and so many others whose lives had been changed inside those shelter walls. Inside, the meeting began. Council members argued, some speaking with anger, others with doubt. A few spoke kindly, remembering stories they had heard about the center's work. Finally, the council leader called for public comment. The room grew quiet. Keanu stepped forward, his heart pounding. He saw the eyes of so many people who depended on this place. He remembered his first night, cold, hungry, invisible. He remembered every hand that reached out, every word of kindness, every chance to start again. His voice shook as he spoke. "When I came to this city, I had nothing," he said. "I was hungry, scared, and alone. But here, people didn't look at what I'd lost. They saw what I could give. This center gave me work, food, and hope. It taught me that respect is not given by power, but by kindness. Here, I learned to forgive, to help others, to believe I could be part of something good." He paused, searching for the right words. "Closing this place will not make the city safer. It will only make it colder. We have built a family out of nothing. We have turned strangers into friends. Please, let us stay. Let us keep helping each other. Let us show that even the weakest voice can change a life." Others followed, mothers, children, volunteers, even Ben, who told his own story of learning humility and finding forgiveness. Each story stacked on the next, forming a wall of truth that could not be ignored. The council listened. Even the angriest faces began to soften. After hours of debate, the council leader stood and spoke. "It is clear," he said, "that this center has become the heart of this community. To shut it down would be to break that heart." A vote was called. The numbers were close, so close the room held its breath. Then the decision came. The center would stay open, protected, and supported by the city. The relief in the air was like a wave. Tears, laughter, people hugging and crying. The sound of hope stronger than ever. The celebration that night was quiet but deep. People shared bread and stories. Old wounds were remembered and healed. Forgiveness was no longer just a word, but a practice lived every day. Keanu sat outside with Ben and Mr. Hulle, the stars shining above the center's roof. He felt at peace, knowing he had given everything, knowing that respect, kindness, and resilience could change not just one life, but a whole city. In the days that followed, the center grew even stronger. Neighbors who once doubted now offered help. New volunteers arrived. The city provided funds for repairs and food. Keanu found himself trusted with new responsibility, helping others as he had once been helped. He understood that storms would always come, but now he had a place to stand, and people to stand with. The story of the community center became legend, a story about how forgiveness can heal, how kindness can unite, how even in the darkest times, ordinary people can change everything by refusing to give up. Keanu no longer saw himself as lost or broken. He saw himself as a bridge, a link between pain and hope, between the world as it is and the world as it could be. In the end, that was what truly shocked everyone who had doubted him, not just that he survived, but that his courage and kindness had inspired an entire city to see with new eyes, to build with new hands, to believe finally that nobody is ever truly alone.